Training camp is here, and Steve Atwater, you're here too. We just heard from head coach Sean Payton for the very first time as training camp begins. The guys have not hit the field yet. They'll do that on Wednesday for some acclimation practices.
Yeah.
Fans are going to be out here, Steve, for the first time on Friday. But there were some big moments, I think, from that initial Sean Payton presser that kind of kicked us off. It got 2024 training camp going. Steve, I thought maybe we take a few minutes, just talk about the top things we learned from that press conference.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't done a ton just yet, and I could imagine Sean Payton is still trying to get a feel for the guys. Now, we know what the guys who were here last year, we know what they can do, but the new guys, he's trying to really get a good idea of what they can do and how they can contribute to this team.
That's right, and we know the rookies, they've got to play catch-up, as Sean Payton has said. The rest of these guys, it's time to compete. But I think four things, to me, Steve, stood out. The first one, quarterback competition. We know it sounds like Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, Bo Nix, they're going to start by rotating again, as they did all offseason. They all split first-team reps. That's going to continue as this starts. And Steve, Sean Payton said, I don't have a specific plan I'm going to lay out for you guys in terms of, are we going to two quarterbacks, then one? Are we going straight to one? You know, are we going to make that decision next week, 2 weeks from now? He said that's when mistakes get made. He's going to let it play out organically. And Steve, in my mind, that's the way you got to do it. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to keep in mind is that the players on the team, they're practicing, especially the defensive players. Well, offensive players, they see it as well. They know who is at the top of the charts. They know who's having the better practices. We as non-players looking from the outside in, we may think a guy is in the lead just from what we see viewing practice, but once they get into the meetings, they know guys who made the correct reads, guys who made the correct adjustments, and guys who are throwing the ball where it's supposed to be. So there are things that we won't be able to tell that Coach Sean Payton and the rest of the team, they already know, and they'll have a feel much earlier than we will of who will win this quarterback battle. Yeah, and I know it's fun to say, oh, he threw 3 touchdowns, he only threw 2, he threw an interception, he didn't, and think you can figure it out that way. But you're right, you got to know what they're trying to do. You know, what are they working on in that period? Is it red zone? Is it 2-minute? Is it third down? What's the goal in this period? Like you said, we don't always know what's going on there. And Steve, I do think everyone wants to know who's going to win this competition, but we were talking before we started recording. There's plenty of time, right? Yeah, you got plenty of time to figure it out. And, you know, the biggest thing, like Sean said, is making the right decision. It's not deciding quickly or, trying to etch something in stone now. You want to really see what these guys can do under pressure. And we're going to have some pressure with the preseason games, with the joint practices, and I think in the end, Sean will definitely pick the right person. We're going to know who wins this competition. I think it's going to be clear one way or another. It's going to play out here over the next few weeks. It's all about getting ready for Seattle in week 1. Steve, whoever the quarterback is, the offensive line is going to need to do a good job of protecting that player. We saw Quinn Miners sign a 4-year extension earlier this week. And Sean Payton talked about, one, Quinn Miners is an important part of this football team, but also he views the offensive line as the most important position group on the entire roster, says that that's got to permeate throughout your entire building. That can be the identity of a football team. Steve, when you look at an offensive line, how critical is that group to team success? Man, I'm with Sean 100%, because if you don't have an offensive line, that means you're not going to be the best that you can be at putting points on the board, keep your defense off the field, and you'd be turning the ball over, all types of things, and it all starts with an offensive line. And I love that we got Quinn Miners paid. I've already, each year I predict he's going to be a Pro Bowler, but he just has that dog in him. I'm glad they got him squared away, and it seems like the guys are out there flying around. Listen to some of the other interviews given earlier today. It's a young team, and they know it, and they know that, nothing is etched in stone right now. You got to go out and give it your all, and hopefully they'll continue to do that even after the rosters are set. Yeah, you mentioned kind of that energy, the youthfulness to this team. Steve, we've seen externally, the national media, maybe there's not super high expectations for this team. Brandon Jones said, hey, we're the ones that determine what happens this year, not anybody outside this building. Sean Payton said they don't have time to listen to that sort of thing. They're focused on competing. They're focused on winning. That stood out to me just in terms of, this team is not letting modest expectations influence its approach. And Steve, you know better than anybody, it takes the guys on the field, the guys in this building, to determine what happens, not projections or predictions or anything like that. Oh, 100%. And,
predictors, the predictions, they're all over the place. In the end, though, Brandon Jones said it right. The team, they control their own destiny. The players, the coaches, how well the players take to the coaching and that effort. And, right now it's relatively easy to go out and give it, you're all 100% because it's so early in camp. The test is going to be 2, 3, 4 weeks in the camp. How are you still doing it? Are you still giving that effort? Are you still there mentally? And they'll reach a point to where it becomes very difficult to do that, but they got to push through and get to the other side and make sure that they continue to give that effort. And it'll be really just their standard of play each and every week.
And I think that's when you can rely on some of this stuff and say, it's the third week of training camp. It's the end of August. We're tired. Hey, these people think we're going to be last in the division, or these people think this wide receiver group doesn't stack up with the rest of the league. Use some of that to motivate you, I think. I think that can be a kind of something that helps propel you through those dog days of camp, if you will.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll use it as motivation within the organization and don't start talking to us about it, telling us that, hey, man, that they were so motivated because nobody's picking us to win. No, talk amongst yourselves, man. Let that be your internal fire. The reason why you go out there and you play the hardest you've ever played in your life and you study in and you know exactly what you got to do on every single play. Surprise people, because you start talking then, now, people are going to start putting you on that board like, oh, man, these guys talking noise. They got something. So, we got to make sure that it is real and true. And the only way to do that is to just keep it amongst yourselves and go out there and show them. Don't tell them, just show them.
I like it. The last thing that stood out to me from Sean Payton's press conference was a couple of guys coming back that avoided the physically unable to perform list. Aric DiLalla, who did not practice toward the end of the offseason program, he's good. He's good to go. And Greg Dulcich, Steve, who obviously has battled injuries the last couple of years, he sounds like they're planning for him to practice this week, kind of get going. How excited are you to see those two guys back on the field?
I'm extremely excited about both of them. Our running back room is going to be so exciting. Javonte Williams, Aric DiLalla, Samaje Perine, Jaleel McLaughlin, Blake Watts. I know he's injured right now, but they have a ton of talent in that room. I can say that about a few different positions, though, where guys who I think have a ton of talent, but they haven't necessarily shown it at this level. Now it's time to go ahead and show it, put it all together, come out as a team, man, and make all the Broncos country proud.
I like it, yeah. And Greg Dulcich in particular, I think,
yes.
Just he's battled through so many things. Hopefully, knock on wood, he stays healthy and he's able to prove what sort of talent he has. I mean, you think back to his rookie year, he was really impressive. He was a game changer when he was out there. I really hope for his sake, I know he's battled through some things, that he's able to take that next step in his career. We'll see soon enough, Steve.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Greg Dulcich, man, he's kind of had a little bit of bad luck here with the injuries, and he had never really been injured when he was at UCLA. So I know it's been frustrating for him, but hopefully he could come out with a clear mind and, again, just execute the offense and be himself, because he's an amazing player when he's healthy.
Well, just a couple days away here, and we will have you covered with everything you need to know. For the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater, I'm Aric DiLalla.